Hey everyone, welcome to the Bold and Beautiful 24. I'm Alessio, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love bold and beautiful, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in.
Bridget Forrester, clipboard in hand, stood nervously in front of a gathering that included Luna Nozawa, Will Spencer, Hope Logan, Ridge, Brooke, and a handful of Forrester staff who perceived that something monumental was about to unfold. She attempted to maintain a composed demeanor throughout the morning, but her hands shivered slightly. Luna stood by her side, her growing abdomen evident beneath the sleek maternity dress she had selected to conceal the shock of her secret from casual observers. Despite the fact that the swelling curve was impossible to ignore, Luna was radiant and nervous. Will was grinning, unaware of the impending storm, and assumed the meeting was a routine discussion about upcoming design launches. Hope, on the other hand, furrowed her brow, detecting immediately that Bridget's tone was off, and her voice was quivering with the weight of a secret too heavy to carry. "Everyone, I have some news," Bridget began, taking a breath as all eyes shifted to her. The air seemed to intensify, and the silence that followed echoed with each heartbeat, reminiscent of the tranquility that precedes an emotional storm. A collective exhale of astonishment rippled through the room as she announced that Luna was pregnant. Luna's hand instinctively reached for her stomach, and her eyes were wide with a mixture of joy, dread, and uncertainty. Will's grin widened, as he was not at all prepared for the emotional roller coaster that was about to occur. Bridget continued, "Twins," a word that simultaneously evoked a sense of awe and dread. The room was abuzz with enthusiasm and whispers, some of which were joyful, while others were skeptical. As the implications of the word began to sink in, the room immediately felt the shift as her voice fell, heavier this time and more deliberate, as she drew in another steadying breath. It was akin to the way shadows deepen when the sun disappears behind a cloud. "Nevertheless, there is a matter that you all must be aware of," she said slowly, casting a glance at Luna that only served to heighten the tension. Her expression was a combination of sympathy and resolve. The words struck like a physical strike, eliciting a silence so profound that the hum of the fluorescent lights appeared to vanish, leaving only the stunned expressions frozen on each face. "One of the babies is not Will's." Will's laughter vanished in midair, and it was replaced by astonishment, confusion, and a sudden paleness that drained the color from his face, as he had been about to make a joke about the new Forrester collection. "What do you mean?" he inquired, his voice scarcely audible. Yet each word was tinged with a combination of disbelief and pain that penetrated his soul and refused to dissipate. Hope approached Will with her hand on his shoulder, her face a combination of concern and protective anger as she examined Luna's expression in quest of answers. Her mind was preoccupied with the most dreadful possibilities. Luna, abruptly fragile and overwhelmed, whispered, I didn't intend for this to happen. I didn't know." Her eyes were filled with tears, and they glistened like small jewels reflecting the harsh lights of the studio. Bridget attempted to provide Luna with some solace in the aftermath of the tempest she had recently unleashed by reaching out and squeezing her hand. Ridge's eyes narrowed as he examined Luna, Will, and the tense atmosphere, leaning against a table with his trademark air of confident composure. A mixture of paternal protectiveness and professional concern knotted his brow. Brooke's face was etched with disbelief as her hands flew to her mouth. A few staff members exchanged uneasy glances, murmuring under their breath about scandal and betrayal, knowing that this revelation was precisely the type of turmoil that Forrester Creations had never desired, but had somehow managed to magnetize. Will's voice, upon its emergence, was trembling with bewilderment and anguish. "It is not mine, but how? How is that feasible?" Luna shook her head, tears now flowing down her face. I don't know." Hope's eyes were simultaneously ablaze with indignation and protectiveness as she asked, "Bridget, are you implying that you have verified this?" she asked with a sharp tone, leaving no room for evasion. Bridget's voice stabilized as she conveyed the devastating truth. "The DNA test, it's conclusive." She swallowed hard. "One of the twins belongs to someone else." The room fell silent once more, as if time had been suspended, as each individual struggled to accept the fact that their lives were about to undergo transformations they could never have imagined. Brooke's customary optimism was replaced by apprehension for both Luna and Will, as well as the family she had always endeavored to shield from scandal, as Ridge's hands contracted into fists at his sides. The weight of betrayal, shock, and the unexpected pain of realizing that the family he had assumed he was constructing with Luna was now irrevocably complicated pressed down on him like a physical weight, causing Will's head to drop. Luna's sobs began to fill the room, initially gentle, but gradually becoming more intense. They echoed off the sleek walls and glass partitions, piercing the formal veneer of the Forrester office with raw emotion. Bridget, attempting to be the voice of reason, stepped forward, her expression a blend of resolve and grief. I understand that this is a lot to process. However, it is imperative that we maintain our composure. Will's hand shot out, gripping Luna's arm, not in wrath, but desperate for an explanation. His voice was thick with emotion as he asked, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" This was a reminder that Luna, Will, and the babies needed our support. How is this possible? Luna could only shake her head, impotent, as her tears flowed freely. I was unaware, Will. I was unaware of the identity of the baby. Hope, who was always the protector, approached, her eyes brimming with a fierce determination that had sustained her through countless family crises. We will figure this out, but for the time being Will Luna requires support, not anger. Ridge turned his attention to Bridget, his voice cutting through the pandemonium with the authority and gravitas of a man used to making difficult decisions. Bridget, we need full clarity. It is important to remember to breathe, as the decisions that follow will affect all of your lives. Who is the father of the other child? What was the time of this event? Bridget hesitated, casting a glance at Luna, who nodded imperceptibly in a gesture of trust and resignation. It's complicated. And it involves someone from Luna's past, someone she thought was gone from her life. The tension in the room reached a fever pitch, the kind of tension that only Forrester family drama could generate, where love, betrayal, and the fragile threads of trust hung precariously in the balance. We need to manage this delicately, but the truth is, one baby belongs to Will, the other, well, doesn't. Brooke reflexively moved to console Luna, motherly instincts kicking in, while Hope's mind raced ahead, already thinking of the consequences for Liam, Will, Luna, and the future of the twins. Sweetheart, we will get through this. Will, who was attempting to comprehend the revelation, felt the ground shift beneath him. The life he had envisioned with Luna was abruptly fractured, and the path forward was uncertain and treacherous. You are not alone. Ridge's strategic mind immediately commenced to determine the subsequent steps, considering the potential consequences for the family business, the public reaction in the event that the information was disclosed, and the intricate maneuvering necessary to avert a complete catastrophe. Bridget, beset by the tumult of emotions that engulfed her, exhaled deeply, her heart pounding with compassion for both Luna and Will. She was acutely aware that her subsequent words could either soothe or exacerbate the pandemonium. We will need to conduct an additional round of testing, she stated with care, to ensure that all parties are entirely satisfied and to establish documentation. This is not solely about Will. Luna, wiping tears from her cheeks, nodded slowly, the enormity of the revelation sinking in. I just want them to be safe, she said. It's about Luna, the babies, and making the right choices for their future. I desire for Will to be informed of the truth at some point. Hope approached, her arm enveloping Will, who appeared to be grappling with the emotional turmoil. We will address this collectively. Ridge, Brooke, Bridget, and all others. We will ensure the safety of the infants. And Will, you are not alone in this. Brooke, recognizing the vulnerability in the room, permitted herself to exhale softly, her hands hovering over Luna's. This is shocking, yes. However, love, honesty, and family can provide us with the strength to navigate even the most unanticipated turns. Ridge, who has finally resumed speaking, maintains a composed yet authoritative tone. For the time being, we maintain this information as confidential. Until the facts are verified, no one outside of this room will be aware. The room fell into a tense, almost sacred silence as each individual grappled with the realization that the revelation of Luna's pregnancy, and the paternity mystery would have a lasting impact on the lives of everyone in Los Angeles, and potentially beyond, forever altering relationships, alliances, and the fragile equilibrium of love, trust, and family that the Forresters had long fought to maintain. As Bridget, Luna, Will, and Hope exchanged weary, heavy-eyed glances, a sense of impending drama settled over them like a storm cloud, signaling that the coming days would be filled with heartache, confrontation, and the kind of emotional twists that only the bold and the beautiful could deliver. The audience was left on the edge of their seats, hearts in their throats, and desperate to see how the tangled web of love, loyalty, and secrets would finally unravel. The room had been previously occupied by the low hum of office activity and quiet conversation, but it had since been transformed into a theater of frozen stares and heavy breathing. Will's hands trembled slightly as he ran them through his hair, a gesture that simultaneously conveyed his disbelief and his urgent desire to regain control over something that was rapidly eroding from his comprehension. His mind was a tumultuous whirlwind of questions, including, how could this have occurred, and why did I not anticipate this? Questions that have not yet been answered. As Luna's trembling fingers absently traced the curve of her abdomen, her tears were unabated, spilling freely down her cheeks. Each motion was a silent plea for forgiveness that she felt she might never deserve. She had envisioned this moment numerous times, sharing the news of her pregnancy with Will, but she was never prepared for the unfiltered emotional reaction that the words, "One of the babies is not yours," would elicit. She stood there, fragile but determined, aware that there was no turning back, as if every flash of disbelief, flicker of anger, and whisper of concern in the room were pressing upon her chest, constricting her ability to breathe. Hope's protective instincts ignited like a raging fire. Her expression hardened as her eyes bore into Luna, and she moved to stand beside Will, her hand a comforting weight on his arm. "Luna, we require the complete truth. Each and every aspect. Right now." The perfect Hope-Logan duality of empathy and insistence, she said firmly, her voice a mix of steel and concern. "No more hiding," she said. Luna's lips quivered as she endeavored to identify the appropriate words. She whispered, each word loaded with humiliation and fear. I don't know who. It's complicated. It's from before I met Will." Her gaze shifted to Bridget, in search of silent confirmation that she would be aided. Bridget nodded almost imperceptibly, her chest clenched, as she was aware that assisting Luna at this time would necessitate navigating a minefield of emotions that could erupt suddenly. Ridge, the family patriarch during times of crisis, eventually spoke, his deep voice breaking through the tension. "This is not merely a surprise. It has the potential to be catastrophic," he said, his eyes scanning the room like a hawk calculating the next strategic move. "We're talking about the lives of two babies, the trust between a man and the woman he loves, and the public fallout if this leaks." Brooke, who was standing beside him, tenderly clasped Luna's hands in hers. "We proceed with care in private and above all, with honesty among ourselves first. Sweetheart, we are at your disposal. For both infants. You are not alone, despite the fact that it may appear that the world is collapsing at the moment." Her voice, which was both calm and firm, was seasoned with decades of experience in navigating grief, betrayal, and secrets. The room appeared to absorb the stabilizing effect of her presence, albeit only slightly. Will's voice broke as he finally summoned the fortitude to speak again. He acknowledged, his blue eyes glistening with unshed emotions. I don't even know what to think." He gestured vaguely toward Luna's stomach, unable to complete the sentence, the words choking in his throat. "I thought this was just us building a family together. And now?" Hope approached him, tightening her hand slightly over his, ensuring that he was anchored in the present. "Well, it will be fine. We will overcome this. However, we require clarification initially. DNA analysis, Bridget. Who is involved? When? We require the information." Bridget exhaled deeply, her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She spoke with care, her voice deliberate, in an effort to prevent the room from further degenerating into hysteria. "Another round of DNA tests will confirm everything," she stated. "We require a definitive answer, not only for Will but also for Luna, the infants, and the future." Luna's sobbing diminished, although they had not entirely ceased. I did not anticipate this, she admits. I believed that everything from my past was behind me, her voice scarcely rising above a whisper. The phrase "in my past" hung in the air like a warning siren, each word carrying consequences that were yet to be seen. Hope's eyes narrowed as she scrutinized Luna's expression, evaluating both honesty and deception. Will, on the other hand, appeared to be in a state of suspended animation, oscillating between shock and empathy. His mind was preoccupied with the impossibility of co-parenting a child whose paternity he had only recently begun to doubt, as well as scenarios and futures. Brooke stepped forward, perceiving the tension approaching its breaking point, and placed a gentle hand on Will's shoulder. You need to remember this. Luna is carrying 2 babies. Well, one is yours. That alone is a sufficient justification for one to cherish, protect, and take action. The other individual is not your offspring. However, this does not diminish the bond between you or the family you will establish together. Ridge continued, we must safeguard both of them, the infants. Absence of breaches. There is no need for speculation. The instant this reaches the wrong ears, it has the potential to derail everything. The room fell silent once more, as the weight of possibility settled like a storm cloud. Every character in attendance was contemplating their own fears, misgivings, and aspirations. Will visualized a future that was entangled with love, despite being shattered by betrayal. Knowing that the emotional repercussions would extend far beyond the studio walls, Hope carefully considered every strategic move to safeguard both her brother and Luna. In the present moment and in the months ahead, Luna experienced a devastating duality of relief and despair, as she was aware of her love but also apprehensive of judgment. Bridget, in her capacity as a confidant and messenger, was burdened with the responsibility of determining whether her guidance would diffuse the tempest or intensify it. Luna then whispered, I need time. As if she were aware that the fragile equilibrium could implode at any moment. Time to contemplate, to exhale, to determine how to confront this situation. All of you will, and myself. Hope approached, her voice now more gentle. Allow yourself the time you require, Luna. However, please be assured that we are present at every stage. And Will, you are not alone in this either. Will nodded slowly, but his eyes remained fixated on Luna, reflecting the swirl of emotions: love, fear, betrayal, confusion, and hope. Ridge, a pragmatic individual, reached the following conclusion. We remain united, we await the results, and we resolve this matter privately. Public awareness is contingent upon the clarity of the facts. This is foremost about safeguarding the babies Luna and Will. Brooke, who was squeezing Luna's hands, emphasized. And bear in mind that every life in this place is bound by love. Even when the path is bleak and uncertain, family will provide you with the necessary support. The camera would linger on Luna's tear-streaked face as the group eventually began to disperse, each member lost in their own thoughts. Her hands were resting protectively on her stomach, and a silent promise was forming in her mind to protect both children, despite the shocking circumstances of their conception. Will, in contrast, remained motionless, gazing at the ground as the reality of fatherhood, complicated and irrevocably altered, began to weigh on his shoulders. Hope remained vigilant, monitoring the office doors, Luna and Will, anticipating the challenges that would arise once the world discovered the truth. Bridget, standing alone in the now quiet office for a heartbeat, allowed herself a deep, shaky breath, the weight of responsibility and care pressing on her heart. She knew that the coming days would test every bond, every vow, and every ounce of love within the Forrester family and beyond.